What is up, YouTube? Jason here. I am happy to announce that last night, around 7, 8 o'clock or so, right, I finally finished reading The Brothers Karamazov by Fyodor Dostoyevsky. This is the longest book to date that I've ever read in completion. And I just want to sort of give my final thoughts and just, really say my goodbyes to such a great work of literature. So, obviously, Dmitri's convicted. We sort of saw this coming. The facts are mounted against him. Smerdyakov has killed himself, and leaving really no one else for there to be brought justice against. So Dmitri, in a sense, has to take the fall for this murder. But anyway, even if Smerdyakov was alive, now it's possible, since Ivan produced this evidence and Ivan was willing to testify against him, that it may have went a different way. But of course, I think regardless, this would have prompted Katerina to produce the letter and sort of sealing Dmitri's fate. So Dmitri's convicted. And what's a little bit discouraging about the trial is you have the prosecution, Ippolit, who is the prosecutor, and you have the defense attorney, Fetyakhovich, getting a large portion, their speeches, getting a large portion of the spotlight in the concluding chapters and pages of the novel. And they're these secondary characters in comparison to and not as well-rounded as Dmitri and Alyosha and Ivan and even Smerdyakov. So, but they get a large portion of the say, and you see them sort of appealing. You see them successfully solicit sentimentality from the jury and onlookers, but you'll also see them both make this larger appeal to Russian society. And, the prosecutor saying something along the lines of why are we having this lukewarm attitude towards parricide, towards the murder of somebody's own father? And he talks about the belligerent, thundering trioka or something like that, like this horse and buggy. That is the Russian society that, like Europe and the rest of the world, are deathly afraid of, and they stand out of the way. And by bringing justice, by serving justice here in this courtroom, we have a chance to halt that horse and buggy and to bring order to the decadence and the decay that has fallen upon Russia. And of course, the defense attorney makes great points. He says this is not parricide, but parricide by prejudice. A father is not given this title. This title is not inherent to a father just because he participated in begetting a child. Not just because he got a woman pregnant is he deserving of this title as father. Instead, he must earn it, and he must show love and raise his children properly, which Fyodor, of course, did not do. And Fetyakhovich sort of turns psychology. He says psychology is a two-sided, blade or whatever, and because the defense or the prosecution chose to focus on Dmitri's psychology quite a bit, as opposed to the fact. He did focus on the facts of the case, but he focused on Dmitri's psychology quite a bit. So the defense chose to as well. And something interesting, just one note I will say, was that Smerdyakov planted in the mind of the prosecution that if I were to commit the murder, why would I leave behind this crucial piece of this evidence that is the torn envelope? If in fact me and my murdered father are the only people to have seen it, if I would have taken the money and I would have taken the envelope as well, because then no one can say for certain that such an envelope with 3,000 rubles even existed. And he says it like quickly and just sort of insinuates this without saying it outright. And this succeeds in the prosecutor taking this as his own idea and spitting it back out at the trial. And the defense astutely points out, right, that he notices that, Smerdyakov, you have mistaken Smerdyakov's character. The prosecutor has mistaken Smerdyakov's character. It is, in fact, a sly, vindictive, spiteful character that masquerades that is concealed under a mask of naivety. And this is, in fact, true. Smerdyakov is something akin to a murderous sociopath, I guess you could say. Just because he has no remorse. He didn't, the defense also points out, he didn't kill himself because of guilt. He killed himself out of despair. Despair of possibly being found guilty, but also since Ivan, said that he would testify, and because Smerdyakov gave Ivan the rubles to show as evidence. And I think Smerdyakov would have decided right then that he was going to kill himself once he handed Ivan the rubles. He knew he was going to hang himself later on. But now also Dmitri must take the fall, because Dmitri's the only one left who can be brought to justice. And so, he killed himself out of despair. And certainly Smerdyakov had something to be resentful about and to be jealous about, right? He was jealous about his brothers as well, as they had all the rights to the inheritance and were, treated with some level of respect, maybe not even by the father, but by society, while Smerdyakov was let being the valet and the servant to, the ranting, raving, drunk Fyodor Karamazov. And so, the defense, points this out, but it's not enough. You have a jury primarily consisting of peasants. And, Dmitri, even though he's found guilty, really, like I said, what garners his conviction, what ensures his conviction is the letter that Katerina produced, but also just his drunk, belligerent nature. And everyone knows him in town as just sort of this callous, uncouth, real drunk asshole, for lack of a better word, right? And incoherent. And so, the trial, while it's, of course, it's about Dmitri at the end, it's also an opportunity for the prosecution and for the defense, for the prosecution to leave this legacy behind. He's at the end of his career, Ippolit is, to leave this great legacy. I think it said it's his final, great speech, or his greatest speech, right? Because he dies, I think, not too long after, perhaps. And then, obviously, for the defense to further bolster his status as a great defense attorney. So luckily, thank God, we have an epilogue, right? So Alyosha can really get the final word of the novel. And that's what I wanted to read to you, was Alyosha's final speech given to Kolya and his friends at Ilusha's funeral. So Ilusha, the little boy, he's been buried. Everybody's sort of distraught, especially the father. But Alyosha gives a really meaningful, sentimental, but also powerful speech. And it's sort of it's prompted by Kolya. Kolya sort of inspires this speech. Kolya lashes out against one of his classmates. Of course he's in pain, having just bore witness to this funeral, this really sad sight, and the suffering of Ilusha's father, the captain. But he lashes out at another boy. And so I'll begin with Kolya's words. "It's all so strange, Karamazov. Such sorrow, and then pancakes after it. It all seems so unnatural. They are going to have salmon too. The boy who had found out about Troy observed in a loud voice. Don't interrupt again with your idiotic remarks. No one is talking to you, and no one cares whether you exist or not," Kolya snapped out irritably. The boy flushed crimson, but did not dare to reply. They strolled slowly along the road. Suddenly, Smirnov exclaimed, "There's Ilusha's stone, under which they wanted to bury him." They all stood still by the big stone. Alyosha looked at it. The whole picture of what the captain had described to him, of how Ilusha, weeping and hugging him, had cried, "Father, Father, how he insulted you," rose in his imagination. A sudden impulse came to his soul. With a serious and earnest expression, he looked from one to another of the bright, pleasant faces of Ilusha's schoolmates and said to them, "Boys, I would like to say one word to you here at this place." The boys stood around him and listened. "Boys, we shall soon part. I shall be for some time with my two brothers. One of them is going to Siberia. The other is lying at death's door. But soon I shall leave this town, perhaps for a long time, so we shall part. Let us make a compact here at Ilusha's stone, that we will never forget Ilusha and one another. And whatever happens to us later in life, even if we don't meet for 20 years, let us always remember how we buried the poor boy at whom we once threw stones. Do you remember by the bridge? Afterwards, we all grew so fond of him. He was a fine boy, a kind-hearted, brave boy. He fell for his father and resented the cruel insult done to him and stood up for him. And we will remember him, boys, all our lives. And even if we are occupied with important things, even if we attain honor or fall into misfortune, still let us remember how good it was once here, when we were all together, united by a good and kind feeling which made us, for the time we were loving that poor boy, better perhaps than we are. My little doves, let me call you doves, for you are very like them, those pretty blue birds, at this time as I look at your faces. My dear children, perhaps you won't understand what I am saying to you, because I often speak very unintelligibly, but you'll remember it all the same, and will agree with my words sometime. You must know that there is nothing higher and stronger and more wholesome and good for life in the future than some good memory, especially a memory of childhood, of home. People talk to you a great deal about your education, but some good, sacred memory preserved from childhood is perhaps the best education. If a man carries many such memories with him into life, he is safe to the end of his days. And if one has only one good memory left in one's heart, even that may sometime by the means of saving him. Perhaps we may grow wicked later on, may be unable to refrain from evil, may laugh at men's tears and at those people who say, as Kolya did just now, "I want to suffer for all men." We may even jeer spitefully at such people, but however bad we may become, which God forbid, yet when we recall how we buried Ilusha, how we loved him in his last days, and how we have been talking like friends together at this stone, the crudest and most mocking of us, if we do become so, will not dare to laugh inwardly at having been kind and good at this moment. What's more, perhaps, that one memory may keep us from great evil and we will reflect and say, yes, I was good and brave and honest then. Let him laugh to himself. That does not matter. A man often laughs at what's good and kind. That's only from thoughtlessness. But I assure you, boys, that as he laughs, he will say at once in his heart, no, I do wrong to laugh, for that's not a thing to laugh at. That will be so. I understand you, Karamazov, cried Kolya. The boys were excited, and they too wanted to say something, but they restrained themselves. I say this in case we become bad, Alyosha went on. But there's no reason why we should become bad, is there, boys? Let us be, first and above all, kind, then honest, and then let us never forget each other. I say that again. I give you my word that I'll never forget one of you. Every face looking at me now, I shall remember even for 30 years. Just now, Kolya said to one of you that no one cares whether he exists or not. But I cannot forget that all of you exist. Boys, my dear boys, let us all be generous and brave like Ilusha, clever, brave, and generous like Kolya, though he will be ever so much more clever when he is grown up. But why am I talking about those two? You are all dear to me, boys. From this day forth, I have a place in my heart for you all, and I beg you to keep a place in your hearts for me. Well, and who has united us in this kind, good feeling which we shall remember and intend to remember all our lives? Who, if not Ilusha, the good boy, the dear boy, precious to us forever? Let us never forget him. May his memory live forever in our hearts. Yes, yes, forever, forever, the boys cried in their ringing voices. Let us remember his face and his clothes and his poor little boots, his coffin, and his unhappy father. Let us remember how boldly he stood up for him against the whole school. We will remember, cried the boys. He was brave, he was good. Ah, how I loved him, exclaimed Kolya. Ah, children, ah, dear friends, don't be afraid of life. How good life is when one does something good and just. Yes, yes, the boys repeated. Karamazov, we love you, a voice cried impulsively. We love you, they all caught it up. There were tears in their eyes. Hurrah for Karamazov, Kolya shouted. And may the dear boy's memory live forever, Alyosha added again with feeling. Forever, the boys chimed in again. Karamazov, cried Kolya, can it be true, as they teach us in church, that we shall all rise again from the dead and shall live and see each other again? All, Ilusha too? Certain we shall rise again. Certainly we shall see each other and shall tell each other with joy and gladness all that has happened, Alyosha answered, half laughing, half enthusiastic. Oh, how wonderful it will be, cried Kolya. Well, now we will finish talking and go to his funeral dinner. Don't be disturbed at our eating pancakes. It's a very old custom. And there's something nice in that, laughed Alyosha. Well, let us go. And now we go hand in hand, and always so, all our lives, hand in hand. Hurrah for Karamazov, Kolya cried once more. And once more the boys took up his cry, Hurrah for Karamazov. It's a tremendous way to end the book. You know, you have so much pain, so much tragedy that has transpired. A father has been killed by his son. No one can determine which son. And everyone's lives is in shambles. Ivan is grievously ill. Dmitri, the chapter before this, it's about Dmitri's potential for escape. And it's required for Katerina to bribe the superintendent so Dmitri and Grushenka can escape to America. Dmitri says he wants to learn English for 3 years in the woods. with Grushenka so they can return to Russia and live as American citizens in Russia. Because Dmitri says even if he's living a lie, at least he'll be doing so on Russian soil. He says he hates America. And, and he says, if I go to Siberia after that, oh well, it was my destiny at that point, if they track me down and send me to Siberia. And so Grushenka must follow him. And Grushenka only chooses to love Dmitri and proclaim her love for Dmitri as upon him being arrested. Alyosha is losing his brothers. He's lost Dmitri to the penal system. Ivan's fallen grievously ill. He has brain fever. And Smerdyakov has hung himself. Lies, his potential fiancée, the woman he will marry, it seemingly is losing her mind the last we saw her. And his father, both his parents now, are dead. And Alyosha, he passes the torch to Kolya and to his friends, but Kolya most importantly because Kolya is the leader of the boys. And it's sad and it's unfortunate that Ilusha had to die to teach them this lesson. But he says, let us remember how we came together to bury the boy at whom you once threw stones at. And there's just such a deep level of forgiveness in that, right? And he is imploring them, let us remember this, and we will not forget each other, but we will also not forget how this event made us better human beings and how we extended our humanity to one another and to the dying boy on his deathbed and to his grieving mother and father and sister. And so, like I said, you have the passing of the torch to the next generation, who will hopefully learn to go and to live their life and be children, and hopefully their parents will help ensure that this is the case, but that they have good memories from their childhood. And he says, people speak of education, but what's just as important as a good education is good childhood memories. Because childhood, great memories from your childhood, this is the foundation that is then further built upon to hopefully construct a conscientious, righteous, respectable adult, and someone who not only can contribute to society, but can to lend a hand to the suffering people out there. So it's just a tremendous way to end the novel. And like I said, even if you find the trial discouraging and sort of long-winded, and you're wondering why these speeches are going on and these secondary characters are getting so much of the spotlight, just wait until the epilogue. Wait until Alyosha's final speech that he gives at Ilusha's stone. And the stone is where Ilusha wanted to be buried instead of the churchyard. They ended up burying him at the churchyard, but he wanted to be buried at the stone. But the next best thing happens. Ilusha, the stone inspires this great speech. Alyosha, I always mess up I keep fucking up his name. The one who has listened to characters, listened to his brothers, and listened to the suffering, the entirety of the novel. He has filtered it through, and he grants us with this piece of wisdom at the end. And it's tremendous that you have to wait until the end to finally be handed down this this nugget of wisdom that Alyosha bestows upon us, the reader, to take with us into our own lives, and hopefully teach the youth something, similar or a parallel that embodies this teaching of Alyosha. So, yeah, Kolya says something interesting, and then I think I'll end it. But Kolya says, your brother's lucky. He was convicted, but he at least is sacrificing himself for his own personal truth. And obviously the truth is that he's innocent. And the trial has seemingly transformed Dmitri's character in a way. He's still Dmitri. But you see Dmitri speak at the end of the trial for the first time, calm and coherently. And he says, I will accept my punishment. I'm not sure, but he just tells us, he tells the jury, but I am not guilty of killing my father. And of course, Alyosha, when he's visiting Dmitri is worried that Alyosha will disapprove of his escape, but Alyosha says, this is not your cross to bear, because I know as well as you do that you're not guilty of killing our father. So the punishment, you should not have to bear the punishment. And Alyosha, that's what also makes Alyosha a beautiful character. He doesn't always have to take the moral high ground on a matter. He is a human being. He's willing to bend the rules if they fit they don't have to fit the parameters of the justice system, but instead our own personal morality, I guess, or at least our own truth and the truth of the matter. So, and the truth of the case, of course, is Dmitri is innocent, but he's been punished. So, great book. Great book. I'm so thankful that Alyosha was granted the final speech. And the hurrah for Karamazov. The boys, I can just picture them saying that to Alyosha. And them in 20 years, Kolya, maybe becoming an older man and becoming discouraged by life, as life tends to do to people as they get older and they turn towards, hedonistic, compulsory pleasures and drugs and alcohol and gambling. And life has many tragedies it's going to throw your way, especially as you age. The people around you, the people that raise you, are going to die. And you're going to have to bear the brunt of a lot of bullshit. The mucus that God spits at you. You're going to, it's not rockets down onto you. You're not always going to have an umbrella to shelter. So you can shelter from, right? But anyway, Kolya will have this speech, and he's going to have this good memory. And I can imagine him in 20 years, even though becoming discouraged, he's not going to forget Alyosha. And I feel as though he's going to understand that he has to bear the burden. He's going to have to put up with his own personal suffering, but as well as the suffering of others, because he's going to recognize his strength. And also he's going to recognize that, he's living for Ilusha, right? Ilusha didn't get to grow old. Growing old is what would you say? It's a luxury, right? Growing old is not guaranteed. Instead it's a luxury. But so Kolya hopefully will carry on and live in the light instead of turning to the dark, as well as the other boys. But obviously Kolya is the main focus. So yeah, a great book. It's very complex. I see myself in every one of the brothers. I see a portion of myself in. And life has a tendency to swallow us whole if we do not stand on some type of firm ground and we do not have a firm sense of self. So, of course, that's why Alyosha is trying to pass on this nugget of wisdom to, take care and to foster these good memories from your childhood and to cherish them and to remember them, because they, in turn, will show you who you are. And they will teach you about yourself, and your identity will blossom and your personality will blossom. And like I said, hopefully they won't forget one another, and they won't forget Ilusha and how his funeral made them better and brought the better out of them. In such a dark time, they chose to stand in the light and to move towards the light instead of letting the darkness consume them. So a beautiful book, a beautiful book. I'm going to be moving on to Crime and Punishment next. And yeah, just keep on the lookout for what comes from that book. I may do some short stories in between, and some poetry, so I'm not only focusing on long novels. But thanks for watching, and have a good one.